There's a sequence, there's a code, there's a combination. And when you get the right combination, it unlocks everything for us. What's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you.
I think the start of this morning trying to get going live here is a great example of how we just figure things out sometimes.
Exactly. Yes. Well, and I
Well,
know that, today we're going to be talking about core values. One of our Tridot core values is find a way or make one. And so that's an example of this too, that we're going to find a way or we're going to make it happen no matter what.
that's it. Absolutely. I threw a little rant after I got off the bike this morning and just threw it up on Instagram and Facebook. And I was listening to Andy Frisella, and he was just talking about, the sheep, herd mentality, and just makes me think of one of my favorite books, the Third Door. And, if you understand what he's talking about in that book is that, the sheep all go to the front door. He's referencing a nightclub, and he's saying, you got the long line wrapped around the building that most people will never get in. Then you got the VIP entrance, you've got money, you've got connections, somebody, or there's that third door. And he said, the third door can be anything. It can be a window that you crawl through. It could be a service entrance. It could be, Jimmy in the lock to break in to get in the back door. No matter what, you are getting in.
Yeah, you're going to find a way.
That's what I felt like this morning was. I was just like, oh, cool. Well, let me push the time a little bit. Hey, we're good. We'll figure it out.
Yep.
We just rolled with it. I want to, so one, thank you so much for jumping in here. I know you've got a crazy, ridiculous schedule and want to kind of tee it up and introduce you to who you are and obviously kicking us up on the Coach Code podcast. And we kind of shifted things around a little bit, over the past year or so. We've been doing kind of coffee and coaching, and it's been more real estate focused clients and leaders that I've had the opportunity and still have the opportunity to work with. And we made finally getting on the podcast platforms, because everything has been streaming and YouTube. And I was like, you know what? I want to just be able to have people that have impacted my life, people that I look up to, people that I just want to have great conversations with, because I know they're doing cool things. And so that's what kind of led. And we were laying out the list of who our initial guests were going to be. And you were definitely at the top of the list. You've had a tremendous impact on my life. And most of the people listening to this kind of have a glimpse of the endurance journey that I've been on for the last 4 years, which started, I guess, 5 years now, which started, getting ready to turn 40 and just wanted to do something, because I had lost my mom, right, month before she turned 40. So I wanted to do something 40. And I thought it was about her, but going through that process, I found, really the reflection and was really became about my dad. And after that experience of New York City, and which, by the way, everybody listening, Coach could run 2 marathons in the time that it took me to finish my first New York City marathon. And so I remember Jesse Itzler, listening to Jesse from stage, and he said, the worst thing that we can do as human beings is when we accomplish something big is that we don't immediately set the next big goal.
Mm-hmm.
And so a buddy of mine kind of needled me a little bit with a link to, at the time, this was going to be Ironman Florida 10-year anniversary. And I just went through the process of, okay, well, what does that mean? Right? What the heck is even an Ironman? And just
right.
Doing all of that. And stubborn as I am, I'm like, well, I figured out how to run a marathon by myself. I could do this Ironman by myself. And I stumbled upon Tridot, which was going to be the training platform. I said, hey, I'm good. I've got a training platform. I'm a coach. I know what I can do. And I remember the race was November, and I think it was maybe August timeframe. I'm like, I am lost. Like, what is a transition? How do I get my bike to the event? And I clicked on the button to add a coach. And I was like, I need a coach. And man, I got with the perfect guy for me at the time. And I just remember our first conversation. It was, I think we talked for maybe an hour and a half that first night. And that was Brian. And he said, hey, all right, man, here's the deal. I got 2 rules. Rule number 1, you don't die. And I said, okay, I like that rule. What's rule
Yeah.
number 2? He goes, you finish. I was like, ooh, I like that rule too. So let's get
Mhm.
after it. And we did. And, obviously hurricane, I think Michael came through and destroyed Panama City Beach. So they took it down further into Florida, I think around Orlando area. And it was just like, man, this is not the experience we want. So I think Brian secretly loved it because, we had more time to work together, and, we went after that following year, 2019, to hit Ironman Texas. And it was an amazing experience. And I tell everybody that if you put in the work, if you just put in the hard work every day and follow the process. And what I love about Tridot, you don't have to guess. It's all right there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And if you do the work sucks, but the event is amazing. And it really was. We had a lot of momentum. Brian stopped coaching, had the opportunity then to start working with you. You got me through Florida, and then 2020 hit. And one of the things, and I definitely want to really unpack your story, but one of the things that having somebody in your corner and a coach, not only to hold you accountable, but we went through 20, and I got to a point, mentally, I was like way checked out. And then being able to have those conversations with you and really talk through things, and, really not only, focusing in all of the disciplines and, hey, paying attention to the 4th discipline, which is nutrition, but really what I think is even more important than it all is the mindset and the mental side of things. Mm-hmm. And, you've been amazing. And I know we're going through trying to figure some stuff out right now, but we definitely have a lot of big things ahead of us, working together, that I'm super excited about. And so everybody listening in, coach is amazing. And I can't wait, let's unpack her story a little bit. And I know she's going to bring a ton of value to this conversation.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. I mean, first of all, when you said, come on the Coach Code podcast, I'm thinking, okay, I know nothing about real estate. I'm like, okay, I put an offer on a home in 2015. I pay my mortgage every month, but what can I offer here? But then, I mean, I've listened to a number of episodes, and I'm like, okay, we're not just centered on real estate, because there's not a lot that I can offer there. I mean, you've got that niche. But I do think there's a lot that I can speak to in terms of setting big goals and just the mindset that goes into that, living out your core values. And the more that, I just kind of thought about, what is it that I could share? I was like, there's so much here that parallels, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what it is that, you're envisioning. And so I'm absolutely honored to be here. I thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you mentioned something right there, right? Continue to push and think bigger, and, kind of share for you, because, your journey didn't start out as a coach. It didn't start out as, now a professional triathlete. But I think there was something kind of wired into you, right? Being a teacher before, pursuing the coaching and endurance route, more so the endurance route for you. Mm-hmm. So kind of share that progression, that story.
Yeah. So it's interesting, because when people have asked me to share, how did you go from, just running your first half marathon to all of a sudden being this professional triathlete? I mean, in terms of the progression, it was fairly quick. It seemed like every year I was just ticking off another big goal. And at first I would be very kind of quiet about that whole progression. And it's just like, I don't want to sound that I'm bragging or putting myself above others. But then, as I found, sharing this story, there was something that everybody seemed to be able to connect with. And just whether it was a small piece of it, or the goal setting part of it, or some of the humbling experiences along the way. And so I now really find it kind of a privilege and an honor to be able to say, okay, this is, where this dream started, and here's the progression of it. And yeah, I mean, today here I am sitting as both a coach and a professional triathlete in a capacity that I never would have really believed could become a reality for me. And I think just even that progression speaks to the opportunity that everyone has to set big goals and to think bigger and to really reach for what it is that just gets you excited and, kind of keeps you up at night going, man, I wonder if I could do that. So yeah, let's kind of,
Have
take
you
it
always,
back and
yeah,
go
have you
grind.
always, been, man, you've always got to keep pushing, always got to set big goals, or was that something that, you learned at a certain point in life that kind of challenged you? Like where did, and I've got to keep thinking bigger.
Mhm. I think that there are some roots in it with just the encouragement that I had from my parents growing up. And, for a number of years, I was a soccer player. So I did soccer from kindergarten and did that through high school. And my dad was always the coach of my soccer team. And so I think I learned a lot from him in terms of what it is that I could do athletically if I really put my mind to it. And just, the hours that I would spend in the backyard dribbling the soccer ball and setting up my own little drill stations. He was really encouraging with that and just saying, like, if you put your mind to it, like, you're going to be all state or you're going to be able to play in college. You're going to have, opportunities that others won't because you're willing to put in the work. And so I think some of that hard work and foundation of just knowing that there's a commitment behind some of those bigger goals really helped. But then it was just kind of this thing of like, wow, I am achieving these things. What else can we do? What else can we do? So I think the foundation was there. But then it's just been something I've continued to build on as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that usually it's how we're hardwired somehow, kind of growing up, and I mean, coach's kid, right? For me,
Yep.
so I, growing up in the locker room and being able to see that, my dad never. That was one of the things, he was never my coach, but I was always with him, and because he was at that point, high school athletics, and so but I was there, I was in practices with his high school teams, and so being able to have that kind of hardwired in to be able to see that. So we'll talk more about a lot of your accomplishments here in a second, but connect back to kind of what we're talking about with core values and thinking bigger, and for you, how, I guess, to you, what does core values mean? And, how do you look at them? How do you live them? Like, what does that mean to you?
I really think of the core values as kind of the guidelines for your life and your decision making, your actions. I think it was you that said, like, on an earlier episode of yours, I remember you saying something like the core values are what you're willing to, like, kind of get in a fight over, that you're going to be, willing to stand your ground, and like these are the non-negotiables. And so that's kind of how I think of them, as these are the things that I'm not going to budge on. And I really feel like, those core values are a definition of your character and your actions. And I know you talk a lot about how, okay, your actions are going to be what drives those results. And so ultimately, your core values really shape who you are, how you're going to base your decisions, how people are going to know you, and then therefore what you get out of the journey that you're on, because they really do shape the decisions that are in your everyday life. And this is something that has always been very important to me. And one of the reasons why I think I connect so well with all of our coaching staff and our full-time staff on Tridot. We spent a weekend, oh gosh, about 2, maybe 3 years ago. And the main focus was, let's outline our core values. And, at the time it was kind of like, wow, we're spending, a whole full 3 days on our core values. And to some people, they were just like, wait, what did you accomplish in that weekend? Like, you wrote down 7 things that, you're going to hold fast to. But it's so important to really establish what those core values are and what you are about, you know, what a company is about, because they really are the things that go and drive the decisions going forward. One of the
They
things
are.
that I love about we have a daily huddle for our Tridot staff, and we always start the daily huddle with one of the core values, you know, and over time you basically have them memorized. And every morning our founder and CEO calls on someone else to start the meeting with a core value. And so every single day they are at the forefront of our mind, and just kind of the reminder of this is why we're doing what we're doing. And I mean, for example, like we're a very Christian based organization. And so we're founded in faith and focused on eternity. That's one of our first core values. And it's like, that's important to us, that, yeah, what we're doing in triathlon is fun and exciting and meaningful to a lot of people, but that's not the ultimate goal. You know, we want to help people improve. We want to help them succeed. We value excellence. And so all of these things really help drive what we're doing on a daily basis. And I've, you know, taken that into my own kind of personal life and professional life as an athlete as well, and just use that as the guide for, okay, who do I want to be working with? What companies do I want to partner with? You know, how do I want to be known as an athlete? And so, yeah, I mean, those core values are vital. And I think without taking the time to identify them, you are just kind of a little bit like, okay, where do I stand and what's important to me? And having that established is key.
Yeah, it's so key. I mean, they're decision-making filters, and so many people go through life and just say yes and just wander and do random things because they don't have, you know, a framework to, you know, make decisions and do things based upon who they are at their core. And
Hmm.
so it's really important, and it's one of the key things that you know, when I work with, you know, especially real estate agents and focused on growing their businesses, let's get down to the core values. What are they? Because that drives everything. It lets me know what's non-negotiable for you. And, you
Hmm.
know, then it helps you have an awareness. And then you start to look at, okay, am I making decisions in alignment to who I am at my core? Am I surrounding myself with people that align with me, who I'm at my core? And just like you had just mentioned, you know, with Tridot, you know, you guys be willing to bet you guys all embody those same values, or you wouldn't be there.
Hmm.
And for everybody listening, kind of, you know, what is Tridot?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. We've been talking about, you know, Tridot triathlon training, and maybe we should explain a little bit what that is. So Tridot is actually software. And so it is software that optimizes triathlon training. And so what our founder and CEO and a lot of the engineers have been doing for a number of years is a lot of data analysis. And there's a lot of advanced analytics and predictive analytics that go into just basically looking at all of the data that's available from triathletes and saying, what is the best way to prepare and train for a triathlon? And through all of this, I mean, machine learning that has been done from these millions of data files, we can look at, okay, if you're going to train for a triathlon and you're doing a full distance Ironman in 16 weeks, here is the optimal way for you to train. And that's going to look different if you're a 25-year-old male or a 75-year-old female. And so what's great is it's looking at who you are as an athlete, the population of athletes that are similar to you and what has worked well for them. And then it takes into account your genetics as well. If you have a genetic file that you can upload with how like predispositioned are you for injury, what is your aerobic potential, and really outlines this is the best way for you to train for a triathlon. So, I mean, in the simplest form, it's optimized triathlon training. It's software that guides the decision making for how best to train.
Yeah, what I love about it is that it's customized to you. And one of the
Hmm.
things that I found, you know, kind of searching for, okay, what are some of the best ways to train, is that that's just cookie cutter. That doesn't take into consideration everything that you just mentioned. Every person's different. And so you want to put me on a
Hmm.
program that might be designed for somebody that, is able to put in the time and effort that that somebody that's a full-time professional that has, a family and, a business and other obligations just doesn't work. And
Hmm.
so you've got to find what works well for you, and it's tailored based upon the data you feed it. And,
Hmm.
based upon your output will determine kind of what the upcoming training sessions are going to look like. And that's what I love about it. And there's no guessing, right?
Right.
I don't have to try to
Hmm.
figure anything out. I just look in there. Okay, this is what I got to do. And you just go do it. And it's man, it just makes it easy, because it is really customized. That's probably the best way to put it. It's really customized to you and based
Yeah.
upon what it is that you're wanting to accomplish. And, guys listening in, I mean, we utilize it. I know it's, triathlon training, but we use it for the endurance stuff on the long runs. I mean, coach knows my big thing right now is to get that 100 mile.
The
And
100 mile.
so,
Yep.
and we're leveraging that same tool and technology to be able to going to accomplish that for sure.
Oh,
So
yes.
it's just being able to have that and not have to guess. And what I would say is that if you want to do something like that, Tridot, I don't know of any other programs out there or anything similar to it, but then get a coach. I'm just telling you guys, there's too many things that you don't have an awareness around, but then there's also the mental side of things that, like, I mean, coach gets my rant text messages on how I'm feeling, and is kind of can talk me off the ledge sometimes. So, definitely have a program that's tailored to you, but also a coach that understands all of the soft things that are hard that are going on in your head as you're
Hmm.
dealing with difficult things. And um, for me, and I'm just kind of curious for you, the driving force for me to go further is just a continuation of keep pushing. There's always more. There's always more. And I've shared with you, once we get the 100, there's going to be something next.
Oh, yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
and it's just the continuation of pushing. But you said something, earlier that I wanted to bring back up, because this is what it is for me. And Joe Rogan really made me aware of this. And he's like, anytime you do something real hard for you as a human, physically hard, that's going to drain you physically, mentally, emotionally, it is the most humbling experience you've ever had.
Hmm.
And there's a Mike Tyson little rant that says, us as humans are meant to be humbled.
Hmm.
And it's one of those things for me that, as somebody in business that's always driving, it's just human nature. Ego can start to creep in. And if I ever feel it, right, if I'm like, oh, yeah, that's off, I'm like, I better go for a long run.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And that, because there's nothing that'll humble you faster than something physically enduring that you keep going when you want to quit. For
Uh-huh.
you, because of the progression. I mean, guys, coach, she's going to be extremely humble, I promise. But we're talking to someone that has qualified for Boston, right? Has been on Ironman podiums, right? Qualified for Kona, turned pro, getting into the money. And so, like, she's going to be extremely humble on all of the accomplishments. But coach, for you, what was the driving force that was like, man, I'm soccer, but like, what turned you on to be like, man, I got to go endurance. I got to go further.
So the whole, shift to triathlon was actually from a very tough and humbling experience in my life. I I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher, and I got my first job out of college. Was teaching in a very kind of inner city school, and was really struggling in those first couple months as a brand new teacher, and was still running, but also just kind of fallen away from the joy of the endurance training at the time. And one of the co-teachers, she's like, you know what, you got to come with me. Like, we got to take a step away from the classroom. Cause I mean, we were both there till like 7, 8 o'clock every night, trying to put our heads together and figure out what we can do to help these kids. And she's like, let's just take a break and let's go to a spin class. And at the time, I had absolutely no desire to like sit on a bike that was going nowhere. I mean, I had biked as a kid, but I did not have any desire or connection with it at that point in my young adult life. But I was like, all right, like, fine. Like, she's, I mean, such a sweet coworker of mine. Yeah, we do need a break. Like, we've been here for over 12 hours already. So let's go to a spin class. We'll regroup tomorrow. And in that spin class, I mean, first of all, loved it more than I expected to. It was kind of one of those like, okay, I'll go because she wants me to, but I wasn't excited about it. And then the instructor there just immediately connected with me and said, wow, like you've got a knack for this. Like, how many times have you been to spin class? And I was like, none. No, she could have just been absolutely blowing smoke and trying to get somebody to like come back to her class. But there was just something about her that I connected with, and she became one of my greatest friends. And she really saw something in me that I did not at the time. And she, I mean, took me under her wing, basically took me to the bike shop and said, this is the bike you're going to buy. We're going to go on a trip to Colorado. We're going to go ride in the mountains. And she was a triathlete. And so she found out that I was like to run. She's like, oh, we got you on the bike. Like, pretty soon she's putting me in the pool. She convinced my husband to sign me up for my first triathlon for my birthday. And so in the time where I was super struggling as this brand new teacher, here was something that was giving me excitement and giving me life again, and just making me a better person overall, instead of spending 14 hours at the classroom trying to figure out what am I going to do and not necessarily taking care of me and my health. Then there was a shift of, okay, I need to take care of myself in order to take care of others. And I've got this support network around me now that's going to help with that. And so the whole, I mean, shift to triathlon came from this experience in my life that was very difficult, and a time where I was completely humbled with what I wanted to do and what I thought I was going to do in my life. And I think that has been one of those driving forces of always thinking bigger, of like, okay, you know, when I first started this was kind of a saving grace for me. And so now, what can I do with this? How big can I make this? How far can I push myself in this same arena with this gift that I was given at a time where things looked so dark? So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Right. And, what do you see? I mean, you've worked with so many athletes, and, what do you typically see that allows them to kind of fall into the endurance side of things, especially, triathlons? What is it that you see people are pushing, get into it? Is it by default, by friends, by just kind of something natural, something that they've always wanted to do? But what is it typically for you that you see?
Yeah. I think there's a couple different things. I think one of those is the athlete that has seen someone else do a triathlon, whether that was on TV or they've seen a family member, they've seen a friend do it, and they've been so inspired. And they've been like, wow, like I can't believe they did that. And it's almost, a question of, I wonder if I could do that too. And so they have this just thought and this question of, could I do that? And it's like, oh yeah, like, if you've got that thought there, we
Yeah.
can make that happen. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing that's going to hold you back from that. Part of it is
It's like we might have froze up a little bit. Must be all of the cold weather that we've got here, Oklahoma and Texas. So we lost coach. Hopefully we'll get her right back here real quick. While we're waiting on her to get back in here. All right, there we go.
Okay.
We got you back.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, we were kind of talking about, just the different, inspiration or whatever they find that really compels them to want to go down that path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm not quite sure where it cut off, but what I've seen is kind of two major themes in the athletes that I've had the opportunity to work with. And one is those that have been inspired by it, that have seen it happen and just kind of have that question of, hey, can I do this myself? And then the other is kind of wanting to overcome a challenge and just really see what they're able to do. And that challenge could be a number of things. It could be something with their personal health, where they haven't led a healthy lifestyle in some arena. And whether that's, weight loss or addiction or a major illness that they're working to overcome. And this is an opportunity for them to kind of take control of that and push past it. Or it could just be something where, they had a tough time with a relationship or financial hardship or a lot of stress in a job, and they're looking for that positive challenge in their life, that maybe they've had some negative challenges and a lot of hurdles. And so they're like, you know what? I've been through some hard things. I know that I can encounter something hard, but I also want this challenge to reap some positive rewards and influence in my life and overcome some of those hurdles and obstacles as well.
Yeah. I see that a lot, in the races, just kind of paying attention. You've got a lot of people. I see a lot of, like you said, illness, overcoming, cancer survivors, or we're doing it, or we're, hey, we're doing this together for somebody, really pushing. There's always typically an inspiration. And, I've told the story many a times, the reason, I did Ironman, the real theme became because I wanted my kids to be able to say, hey, my dad's an Ironman. And that was the mental mantra on, the run course. I just remember just telling myself, my dad's, and I just would visualize each of the kids saying, my dad's an Ironman, my dad's an Ironman, my dad's an Ironman. I did that one of the whole loops there in Texas, just to be able to get through. And I just think that is so important to be able to have something that, is really driving you, because it gets tough. It gets real tough out there.
Oh yeah.
But there's nothing better than that last 100 yards as you're coming in. Just when we did Tulsa, it was just so cool, coming up the street, you're right there, come up, turn the corner. There's my sister and, her entire family, Holly and Zane. And, then you just get to go down the chute. And then, you hear your name called. You can't see nothing. The lights are shining all over you, but it's just such a cool experience. Definitely on the Ironman circuit side of things. For me, it's those long training days, or even out there when you're questioning yourself. I know what that feels like at the finish. And that's why you finish is to experience that. Cause I know on that bike course in Tulsa, I was like, and I might, or actually what was Tulsa was even worse was the water. I was like, I might just call it a day. I was 20 minutes in and I might just call this a day already.
Well, in that last 100 yards, that's what brings you back too.
Yeah.
Because just that elation at the finish line, it's like you almost forget about all the previous hours of the day and how many times you're like, I'm never doing this again. I'm done. This is the last one. And then you get to the red carpet and you're like, this is amazing. This is wonderful. When's the next one?
Yeah. And that's what we, coming out of Florida in 19 and then going into 20, right? We were going to do back to back. We were doing Texas, Tulsa. It was going to be Tulsa first time. And we had a ton of energy, ton of momentum. And then obviously everything shut down. And then it's just hard. It got real, real hard to stay to stay in that fight. And I think that's where, having those big goals, and something that you're willing to commit to. And this is a conversation you and I've had, here recently. It's just like, mentally, I cannot commit right now, and time wise, I cannot commit. And so we need to look at, how things lay out further into the calendar. But for you, talking about commitment, and especially with big goals like this, what is the connection there? Big goals and big commitments.
I think that, for those big goals to happen, there is an understanding that it is going to be not only like a progression, but it is going to take the time and it is going to take the energy. And that's something where, I'm very much kind of a believer in journaling. And I would always journal things, even before they would become truth. And so, in early 2019, I can flip back to the journal that I had, as I was writing each morning, and I would sit down and I would write out kind of the long-term goals, the short-term goals. And as I flip back to that, January 1 says, I am a professional triathlete. Now, I was not at the time, but it was like, I am going to write this until it is truth. And that's something that I still do. And so it's like, I understand that this is a big goal. And underneath the I am a professional triathlete, I have the sentences written that say, my goals are big. I understand that this is going to be a big commitment. The choices that I make today are going to make me better tomorrow. I'm going to keep working at this even when times are tough. And the sentences would vary a little bit each day, but I would continue to write down these big goals until they're true. And so, even back before I was a Kona qualifier, I would write down, I've qualified for Kona. Even before I ran the Boston Marathon, I wrote down, I have run the Boston Marathon. Right now it's, I am on the pro podium. Am I there yet? No, I'm not. But I'm writing it down until it becomes truth. And so those are the big goals that I have. And just, it's that constant reminder of this is what I want. And in order to get what I want, it is going to take a big commitment to make it happen.
Yeah. And so you look at, I love that. That's, big goals require big commitments. I love that. And do you, when you look at the big commitments, it's down to what you have to commit to every day?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And it really is like a daily thing. And it's those daily habits that make up, the consistency to get you to those goals. It's not just I'm going to put in a couple days or sit down for a couple hours and figure out how this happens. It's like, no. And I think this goes back to those core values too, of like, how am I going to live my day-to-day life? And what am I going to do each day that sets me up for the life that I want? And I remember you talking on one of your previous podcasts about, like picturing your perfect day. And I remember doing this. There were a couple of our Tridot coaches that went down for Ironman Florida. And on our road trip back from Florida, we all were just, trying to kill some of the time. It's like a 10-hour drive. And we brought that question up of like, okay, perfect day, what does it look like? And all of us did. This killed a good couple of hours as we all described what it would look like in the morning. Where were we? What did we do when we woke up? Like, what does our day look like? And, for me, a lot of that was centered around, I want to train and I want to coach. And so as you envision that perfect day and what you really want to go after, then all of your time, your commitment, your decisions that connect with those core values kind of lead you toward getting closer and closer to that. And it's amazing now. I'm not quite at my perfect day, but I've taken a lot of steps to get closer and closer to that. I have the opportunity now to wake up and train and coach others. And so it's like, there've been a lot of commitments along the way to do that. I've got to put in the training hours. I've got to, stay up late and make sure that I'm answering emails from athletes and making sure that they're on track. I've, got to make sure that I still put in the time and the hours when I was still teaching, so that I held that responsibility as I'm getting ready for this shift. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things there.
Yeah. How has really leaning in on the coaching side of things, has that made you a better athlete or not?
Oh, 100%. Yes. I think that there's just something about having an impact on other people's lives that is so important for me and such a driving factor for me, because it allows me to not only personally connect with them, but I I am so inspired by the athletes I coach. And I've mentioned that to you a couple times. I've mentioned that to other athletes. It's like, you guys are why I think I have so much fire and energy for what it is that I do. That it's like, one, I want to be in the sport and a good example for the people that I'm coaching. I want to understand what it is they're going through. So when I tell you, hey, you've got an FTP test tomorrow, I'm not just, sitting over here going, oh, good luck with that. That's really hard. It's like, you know what? I'm going to be there suffering with you. And that happened just yesterday. I did my bike assessment. And for those of you that are like, what in the world is she talking about? This is a 20-minute all out effort on the bike. And it's one of the hardest things that I feel like our triathletes have to do. It is just 20 minutes of
Brutal.
pain and suffering and mental grit, a whole lot of fortitude to get through that. But it's like, I can't shy away from that. And I've got to make sure that I'm on top of my game and I'm pushing through that. And what I ask of my athletes, I want to be able to relate to them and have those experiences so that I can share with them as well. I feel like a lot of what I'm doing as an athlete makes me a better coach, and what I'm doing as a coach just inspires me to do the little things right and be a better athlete too. I think there's a really good back and forth there for me. Some people, it doesn't work as well for. There are fantastic coaches that have never been athletes, and they have that personal knack for it. I also feel like there are some coaches that maybe are, so much of an athlete themselves that then they struggle to find the time to give to their athletes. So I don't know that it works for everybody, but I have found it to be a really good match for me on both sides of the coin there.
Yeah, I would agree. It is. It's cool because I know you and I have conversations, or you'll push me a little bit, and I know you share from not only a coach dynamic, but also from personal experience dynamic. So I think it allows you to relate a little bit. I think you're able to have a little more empathy, but you're also you can call people out on their bullshit pretty quick too. So I think that's fantastic, to be able to have those, both vantage points, and be able to kind of share, and you can kind of relate, and you can be like, yeah, that don't make sense, or like, hey, I got you, I understand what that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fantastic. So as we kind of wrap up, Coach, what's on the horizon for you? What's that big goal that you're having big commitments towards right now?
So right now for me, it is working my way to stand on the pro podium. And so, yeah, as you mentioned, like, I got my pro card. I've been able to do a couple pro races. One of my goals last year was to try to find my way into the money. And so I was able to do that at Ironman Chattanooga last year. I got sixth.
Right.
And so just one spot away from the podium, which has kind of been a theme for me, kind of one spot away in a lot of different events. And talk about humbled and hungry. That's there.
I want you to share. I want you to share the reminder that you always tell me, and it's the Roosevelt quote or little thing about the man in the arena.
Oh, yes. I mean, it's one of my favorite quotes. And it actually, I think maybe I pushed a little bit for this. This actually became one of our Tridot core values as well, with being the man in the arena. But it's like, it's better to be out there and to suffer and not necessarily come out on top because of how much you learn from it. And so, yeah, go and be the man in the arena and see what the result is. And even if it isn't, what you would have hoped or anticipated, that there's such a learning process that comes from that too. So yeah, I mean, I fully embodied the whole let's go be the man in the arena as I was starting my pro career last year. My first pro race was Ironman 70.3 St. George, which was the North American Championship. And talk about going big for my first pro event. This brought an extremely competitive field. And I mean, I won't necessarily give out names. I don't know that would have a whole lot of meaning, but I'm lining up next to people that have multiple world titles. And I'm like, okay, this is my first pro event. Here I am, like,
here we go,
toeing the line with the greats and the people that I've looked up to for years and years. And it's like, I am the man in the arena right now. I told somebody else, like, I have never been more excited to go get my butt kicked, because I guarantee you, like, there was no way I was coming anywhere near the podium, anywhere near the top 50% in that, but I couldn't wait because it was like, I am here in the arena. And so, yeah, I'm looking to be more of a competitor in the arena in the upcoming years, working on moving that 6th place into a 5th place for this season. And then just really embracing what I can along the way, and those experiences to be in the arena and learn from the best and toe the line with the best. It would have been easy to stay an amateur and enjoy racing at the top and, getting more podiums and having more Kona qualifications. But I really believe that this is, that opportunity to think bigger and go for something bigger. And it's going to take me a while to move my way up in the pro ranks, but I couldn't be more excited about the opportunity to do that and what I'm going to learn along the way.
Well, definitely have a lot of people cheering you on, and definitely I'm one of them, and just grateful and honored to call you my coach. And I know we've got a lot of big things together ahead, and so super excited. And I appreciate you reminding me to stay in the arena. And I think it's a great reminder for everybody listening in to this conversation. The big goals require big commitments, and those big goals require us to get in the arena and keep pushing and just I love kind of how we themed this around making sure that we're doing things that are aligned to who we are at our core, and behaving in that way, right? That's really what core values are, is just behavior, and our behavior, dictates our results. So if you know who you are at your core, and your values are, pushing you to be the person in the arena, but not only, the person in the arena, but a person in the arena that achieves big things. It's really cool. So, Coach, thank you so much. I appreciate you making the time, jumping in, and hopefully we'll be able to have you back on soon and hear about the journey and talk about that pro podium experience.
Well, thank you. It was a true pleasure. I appreciate it.
Awesome. We'll see you. Thanks.